Good day. Snacking is part of our everyday routine, but it often comes with confusion. Before we get into today's conversation, grab your cup of coffee and join us on Freshly Brewed, where compelling conversations brew between fascinating guests and BusinessMirror's journalist hosts. In this episode, we talk about mindful snacking, the role it plays in our daily nutrition, and why understanding food labels can help us make more informed choices. Joining us is Jo Sebastian, a registered nutritionist, dietitian, and content creator, and host of the Donut Box podcast, where she shares practical and relatable insights of health and wellness. Together with our one and only Eiron Francisco, BusinessMirror's multimedia content producer.
You know that feeling when you've eaten a little too much and suddenly the guilt kicks in? Or when you're craving something, maybe something sweet, something indulgent, but you stop yourself because you're on a diet, or you just work out, or you're trying to stay on track. We've all been there. It's like there's this constant push and pull between enjoying food and feeling like you shouldn't. But is it really necessary to sacrifice your cravings, your satisfaction, just to stay healthy? Or is there actually a way to enjoy the food you love and still take care of your body at the same time? Hi, I am Eiron Francisco, a multimedia content producer at BusinessMirror, and I'm your host for today's episode. And today we're diving into that balance between cravings, guilt, and what healthy really means with someone who keeps it real when it comes to nutrition. Joining us is Jo Sebastian, a registered nutritionist and dietitian, and the voice behind the Donut Box podcast, where she shares no-nonsense health and wellness advice. Hi, Jo. Welcome to the studio.
Hi, thank you. I like the voice.
The voice, yeah.
Not a singer, but thank you for that.
All right, so before we get into the big question I mentioned earlier, the cravings, guilt,
Yes.
and balance, I want to step back first. So you're a registered nutritionist
dietitian.
and dietitian, but at the same time, you've also built your presence on social media. So tell me more about this. How did this content creation started?
Okay, well, it started actually in 2015 when I was in college, mainly because I wanted to be more confident in myself. So I wasn't the most confident person. I was very insecure. And I was kind of in this, maybe let's do a fake it till you make it vibe, where if you post videos online, you'll seem confident and then you'll become confident. And I think it kind of worked because I did get to know myself a lot better. And through that journey, I also was studying nutrition. And when I graduated, I used to be a dancer, so I love performing. And when I graduated college, I was thinking, how do I mix my passion for performing, for dance, with my knowledge of nutrition? And because people were starting to post more online, I was thinking, oh, okay, maybe that's the way. So I was already posting content, mainly beauty and lifestyle related, but I realized I could actually start talking about nutrition with the goal of reducing misinformation and allowing people to feel more confident in their relationship with food. So I think that was a very fun way for me to kind of mix my past and my present of becoming somebody who's still a performer in a sense, but also using my science background to help us share a very important message.
Right. So, but when you started, was there, or who were your particular audience? Was there a particular audience you're targeting?
Well, when I first started, it was definitely people who were not confident in themselves to gain that confidence. But as I got older and started realizing more of what my message was, I think my target audience is those who are struggling in their relationship with food, who feel lost with all of the misinformation online about nutrition, and want to start taking care of themselves without guilt. Without the struggle, the push and pull of, is this right? Ganito ba talaga? Paano ba? But to be able to really understand, no, I can listen to my body and I can develop this healthy routine if I understand myself better.
Meron bang differences, like you're a clinician versus content creator?
In what sense? Like
Giving advice? Kasi knowing na pag nasa clinic ka, medyo technical terms, stuff like that.
Oh, definitely. But even in college, we studied how to become an effective nutrition educator. So it's still part of our curriculum. We usually do outreaches to different communities. So one of the things that we really learned to do was translate science-backed, evidence-based nutrition information into everyday habits or our everyday routine. So it's definitely something that we learned. It's definitely something that we tackled, and I can see the difference of you have to make it easy to understand. Kailangan kahit sino yung manood, may intindihan nila kung ano yung sinasabi mo.
Okay. So based on the comments na nakikita mo sa social media mo, what people usually ask you about?
Ooh, there's so many. People tend to ask me for meal plans or...
But what are the top 3 comments they ask?
I think a lot of people really focus more on trying to ask about misinformation and misconceptions that they've heard. So a big one is, okay ba talaga yung rice? So isa yun, so malaking tinatanong, is it okay to eat rice? Another thing they usually ask me is, what time of the day should I be eating? Di ba parang ano ba yung tamang oras? Because there's also a lot of popular trending ways to eat na. And then of course, the big question I always get asked is it okay to snack? Diba? Are snacks okay? Because I snack at work, I snack while I'm commuting, in all of these different moments in my life. Is this okay? So I think those are the biggest topics for many Filipinos who might be struggling with their relationship with food. They want to know, is rice okay? Anong oras ba dapat kumakain? And is snacking okay?
Right. And if you look at social media today, do you think it's helping people make better choices, or is it actually confusing people in terms of the nutrition awareness, stuff like that?
I think it depends on what side of the internet you're on. There's always many sides of the internet. There's a side where you have your dietitians, your doctors who do their best to share information and make it more publicly accessible. But then you have the side of the internet with a lot of fads and a lot of exaggerations to science, which can make it even more confusing. So I think it's a mix of both. It really depends on what side you are in the internet. For me personally, because I've been able to cleanse my feed in a sense, may not interested button kapag may nakita kong hindi masyadong aligned with my values, I feel like it's helpful for me. But it depends because everyone's algorithm is very different.
Right. And also, you mentioned this, yung mga comments ng mga fans mo or audience mo, like, pwede ba mag-rice sa snack, ganito, ganyan. But what are some of the most common nutrition myths na nakikita mo?
Well, I think a lot of the nutrition myths are definitely around creating fear around food, and a lot of it is definitely people being told, you're not supposed to eat this, you're not supposed to eat that. No? So marami talaga dun sa mga ginagawa natin every day na palaging sinasabi masama. Right? And one of those things is, like we mentioned, is definitely snacking. Right? It's something that's part of our routine. It's part of our timeline. And because we do it quite often, people tend to question, is this right? Should I be doing this? And that's something that we try to tackle more whenever I talk to my clients.
And also, since you mentioned the misinformation thing, so paano natin matutulungan, or how can listeners tell if what they're seeing online is truly credible?
First is the source. You have to make sure that the source you are listening to or you're getting your information from is credible. So that would, of course, be either science-backed, they are referring to studies or references, or they are health professional. So yun yung pinaka-importante. And then taking a look at the claims. Madalas kasi, a lot of the misinformation comes from exaggerations. So when it seems a little too good to be true, or maybe it seems a little it's kind of crazy, it's a very bold claim, those are things that tell us that, maybe I should double check. Parang, kailangan ko ata tignan kung tama to. Those are the things that, for me personally, I look into is, who is the source, and does this claim seem a bit exaggerated?
Alright. So kasi minsan ang hirap na din i-distinguish which one is true or fake, knowing na we're in this AI world, right?
Yeah.
So, authenticity can be fake. Alright, so since we're now talking about snacking, why do many people feel guilty about snacks? Kasi parang the moment you reach for something in between meals, may feel na, ay, bawal to. ay, naku, mag-workout na lang ako mamaya, you know. So where do you think that guilt is coming from?
I think there's a lot of places that it comes from. Number one is definitely from the fear of eating. Now, we all have this fear of eating because of social media, because of growing up. Palagi ka kinokomentan pag kumakain, di ba? Para sabihin na, kakain ka pa talaga ulit. Tapos kapag kumain ka ulit, or pag hindi ka kumakain, kulang ka na kinakain, kumain ka pa, di ba? So there's all of these very contradicting messages we've heard growing up. And the fear of food is definitely ingrained in our culture and in our society. So the fear of, adding too many calories, or baka masama na tong kinakain ko. Ito yung marami sa mga fears natin when it comes to snacking. And because a lot of us believe that it should only be 3 meals a day, we don't understand the concept of, or the value of snacking as well. So I think those are where the guilt comes in from. And of course, what we tend to snack on, because people tend to have bad and good mentalities around food. So since we tend to reach for more easy to snack on little food items, that gets a bad reputation. And then people start to feel guilt, and they start to question their food choices. So it comes from all of those different aspects.
Right. And actually, I came across one of your videos, and you said something that, you know, stuck with me. You said we have to be mindful of the words we use around food. Kasi, like, when we label food like good or bad, clean or junk, mas na-internalize natin yung ganung bagay. And at the end, parang tayo pa yung nagiging problem when choosing that food. So can you expound that concept?
No, exactly. That's something that I grew up with kasi. So I did a lot of diets when I was younger, as we all do. Growing up in a diet culture where all of your favorite foods usually sinasabi masama, diba? So you feel that guilt. You internalize it. Oh no, this cookie is bad, which means that if I eat this, I'm bad. And because we internalize that, it bleeds into the other parts of our day and the other parts of our relationship with food. Well, masama na ako today, edi masama na lang ako the whole day, diba? Why not just restart tomorrow, diba? Like you said, let's try again on Monday, or all of those things, New Year's resolutions. So yun yung nagiging mindset natin. It becomes all or nothing. Nutrition and food becomes all or nothing. And one of the biggest things I always say is there's no good or bad food. And that's not necessarily saying all food is nutritionally equal, but there's no moral value to food. And when you take away that moral value, you get to decide, why do I choose this food? Is it because I want the energy? Is it because I want the taste? Is it because I want something that is comforting? There's a reason why we eat. There's many reasons why we eat. And whatever reason that may be is valid. But it starts with, of course, taking a look at how you see food and the words that you use around food.
Pero on the flip side, dapat ba nating araw-arawin yung snacking? Like, is there such thing as too much, or may pattern ba tayong dapat tinitignan?
Well, in anything in life, too much is always a bad thing. But it depends on the person what would be considered too much. I usually find that there's two types of snackers. There's the mindful snacker who will eat with more intention, who will take their time out of their day to have that snack. And then there's the mindless snacker, or someone I'd also like to call the grazer. The grazer is somebody who takes a little bit of food every now and then, but never really setting aside the time to have a snack. Diba, may tendency kasi tayong ganyan, ay, bubuksan ko yung ref, ay, kukuha ko dito peraso, ay, mamaya, peraso ulit. And then you didn't notice or realize throughout the whole day, ang dami mo na pala nakain. But bits and pieces of it. And I used to be like that. And there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but you have to ask yourself, why am I grazing through food? Why am I snacking mindlessly? And there's usually many reasons. So it could be one, your food or your meals are not satisfying. So pag kumakain tayo ng lunch, breakfast, dinner, hindi siya satisfying. So maghahanap tayo ng iba-iba. It could also be restrictions in your diet that tell you, you're not allowed to eat this, you're not allowed to eat that. So, patikim-tikim ka na lang. Hindi ako pwede ng cookie, pero tikim na lang. so natitikim-tikim tayo doon.
Hanggang sa naubos mo na yung isang pack.
Exactly. Same lang din naman pala. Pero you didn't want to commit to it. So, because of the guilt that you felt. And then, of course, the other side is we don't really see food as a primary activity. Diba? Ang tendency natin is we see eating as a secondary activity. Secondary to work, to our busy schedule, especially a lot of people who tend to work office jobs. They'll eat while they're working. Kasi sayang sa oras.
Sayang sa oras.
Diba? Parang sayang sa oras. But it can be a primary activity when we set aside some time for it. And I think those are the biggest things that lead to those eating habits that aren't necessarily the most beneficial is when we aren't attentive or in tune with our body and we don't have that intention that we want to, including when it comes to snacking.
Pero paano naman natin malalaman if our body needs food or it just stress, boredom, or there's this emotion na nagtitrigger sa'yo to snack?
Ooh, that takes time to understand and to learn. But when I talk to my clients, the first thing we focus on is a consistent meal pattern. Okay. So yun yung uunahin natin. Why? When you give your body routine, you give your body consistency, it will start to develop a routine that fits for you. Diba? So ideally, you eat your first meal 2 hours within waking, and then every 3 to 4 hours after that. So that would be your meals and then your snacks. Once you build that routine, your body will start to create more consistency and send you those signals better para mas may intindihan mo na, okay, nagugutom talaga ako sa ganitong oras. Or parang pag napapansin mo, okay, hindi ko alam kung bakit kakakain ko lang pero gutom na ako. So what is the reason for this? And then you check in, medyo nagalit ako sa kaibigan ko kanina. Yeah. Medyo na-stress ako sa medyo naipit ako sa traffic. So that's when you start to recognize na maybe this is more emotional eating at play. Or maybe this is more of my stress now. But it starts with building your foundation first, which takes time. That's the thing, it takes time. And a lot of people, yung tendency pag hindi pa nila nabibuild yung routine, tapos nag-fall off na sila, ay nako, wala, hindi gumagana, ayoko na, diba? So we give up. So it first takes time for you to build that trust with your body. And once you do build trust, you can find those times in your routine that you can ask, why is this happening? And how do I address this?
Yeah. Alright, and on a more personal note, nangyari rin ba sa'yo yung tipong napasobra ka lang talaga because the food was so good or the moment was worth celebrating, what do you usually do after that?
Oh, that happens to me for sure. It happens to everyone. That's overeating and that's a normal thing that happens. What tends to be the case after you overeat is eating more, or eating less, diba? Yung tendency natin is, what do I do after I overeat? Babawiin ko na lang bukas. Exercise more, eat less, and that's the thing we want to avoid. Because it creates a cycle. And what do we mean by that? Ang dami mong kinain, so babawasan mo for breakfast, babawasan mo for lunch, sobrang magugutom ka for dinner, tapos papapadami na naman, and then uulitin mo na naman the next day. So that becomes a cycle. If you eat too much, it's okay, it happens. Understand first, why did it happen? Is it because the food was just extra good? Or baka stressed ka? Or baka kulang ka naman talaga kinain the other day so that you can have a solution for it the next day? And then treat it as if nothing happened. Diba? It's okay. Just move on. Kasi it happens. And the more you dwell on it, the more it will happen again.
Or maybe you can share more practical tips to our listeners. Kung paano nila pwedeng i-apply pa yun. Like, paano mababalance yung pagkain mo ng marami, then at the same time, magstay healthy.
Well, when it comes to our regular eating patterns or general eating, the main focus I usually give is, of course, to focus on understanding the why behind your food choices. This is very, very important. Kasi you have to recognize or you have to understand, bakit ba ako kumakain? Bakit ko ba hinahanap ang iba't ibang pagkain na to? Like, why am I looking for these certain food items? That's very, very important. And I guess we could use a snack as an example for this, diba? Our tendency is, why am I reaching for this food item? Or why am I craving these things? Those are the moments that we can really ask ourselves, maybe I need energy. That's why I'm reaching for more carbs. Or maybe I am looking for that feeling I had when I was a kid. Kaya I'm looking for a specific food item. Diba? So there's a reason why you're reaching for food. But you have to ask yourself why that is. So the next step to that, so we can focus on balance, is of course setting aside a mindful portion. So let's say when it comes to snacking, for example, setting aside that portion that you feel or you think that will be a satisfying amount. You can also, of course, reference nutrition labels or maybe portion guides to help you build that in the beginning. But that will help you see, okay, this is the amount of things I want for my snack now. If I want more later, I can get that. But for now, ito muna.
Yeah.
And then when you have that part of your snack, you can also have the option of adding what nutrients might be missing. So baka kulang ako ng fiber, kulang ako ng protein, try ko idagdag yun sa snack na yun. And then, of course, it's to enjoy it with all of your senses. And this is the thing that we really forget, di ba? Kasi what happens when we eat, parang,
Kain na.
ay, ubos na. Sino kumain nito, di ba? We don't notice that. So it's really important to sit down with your food and enjoy it. So it might seem OA, pero some people actually write it down. Parang, ano yung kulay ng food na to? Ano yung smells? Diba? Kasi part yun ng process natin of eating. Like they say, you eat with your eyes first because it's part of the experience talaga. And of course, at the end, it's important to be in the moment. Diba? Why are you eating? Not just for nourishment, but also for fun and for joy, and that's okay. Correct. And it's important for you to have these habits and these routines when it comes to being more mindful of food in general, specifically when we're snacking.
Okay. And when we talk about making better choices, doon na rin pumapasok yung awareness natin sa kinakain natin. Like for example, you've mentioned yung mga reading nutrition labels, something a lot of people either ignore or find confusing kasi ang daming numbers, calories, sugar, fat, sodium. So sometimes it's really confusing kung ano ba yung talagang important dito sa mga stuff na to. So how can we start using nutrition labels in a simple pero hindi tayo nag-overthink?
Okay. So the first thing we look at is serving size. Okay, so this is something people don't know, but there's actually a serving size na nire-reference ng isang food item. Let's say, meron tayong parang row of cookies, diba? So usually hindi siya nakapack in the whole row. In the serving size, it will tell you all of the information na nakalista doon for what is that. Diba? So, kung wala nakasulat dun sa serving size, 2 cookies. Okay. So, ibig sabihin, lahat ng nutrition information dito is for 2 cookies, not the whole pack. And that's the biggest misconception people tend to see is, this whole pack, 100 calories lang to kasi sabi ng nutrition information, tapos di nila alam, di nila nakita, may serving size pala. So, we have to check the serving size. What does a serving look like? Usually, it will say 2 cookies or 3 cookies, or it will say 100 grams or whatever measurement there is, nakasulat. So that's the first thing that you look at is the serving size in reference to the package that you're consuming. So makikita mo, okay, so 1 serving is already the whole pack pala. Or 1 serving is actually only 1/3 of this. So it's very important for us to know.
Aside dun sa serving size, ano pa yung other top 3 natin?
Another one that you want to look at is, of course, yung energy. So that's when you can look at the calories. So calories are a measure of energy. Sasabihin niya kung gaano karaming energy ang ibibigay sa'yo ng pagkain nito. So that's when you can see na, is the energy matching the serving size? Kasi makikita mo na parang, yung energy niya is quite big for the smallest serving. So you can kind of have that reference. Of course, it doesn't mean that high energy is bad, but it just gives you information. Kasi maybe you're the type of person who needs more energy. Then you can go for something that has that higher energy. Or maybe you're looking for something lower in calories, then may reference ka dun. And then the next thing to look at is, of course, your nutrients that you're looking for. So fiber, gusto natin as much as possible may fiber. Protein, take a look, sana mataas yung protein. We also want to look at the added sugar amount, and also we want to look at the dietary fat. So yun yung mga titignan naman natin na what we want to keep up and what we want to keep a little bit lower. And those can be our references. So serving size, calories, and then the specific nutrients that you might be looking for.
Right, yun ang top 3 natin.
Yes.
Alright, so how do we balance naman being informed, reading labels without losing the enjoyment of eating? Because at the end of the day, we want people to enjoy the food and have a good relationship with food, right?
Yes, definitely. That's the most important message for me. I think that's really where it's hard to draw the line kasi, di ba, with information that we use, and then it becomes fear because a lot of us tend to become very, very aware. Yung masyadong aware. Actually, a lot of the times, those who study it, like dietitians and nutritionists, they are more likely to develop disordered eating behaviors because of that awareness. Kasi masyado mong pinag-iisipan. So it's important to remember, nutrition information and all of these tips are for awareness. It's important to be aware, but it's also important to understand your body and understand you. We have different food choices for different reasons, and all food items will offer something. So you just have to ask yourself, ano ba yung hinahanap ko sa pagkain na to? Am I looking for energy? Am I looking for protein? Am I looking for fiber? Am I looking for satisfaction? Am I looking for comfort? But all of those reasons are valid. But it's up to you to understand why you're making these food choices and use the information that you see in nutrition labels and use the information that you hear to help you make those informed decisions. Because we want to make sure that when we choose a food item, it is with awareness of what we're eating and with intention of, I want to be satisfied, I want to be full. That allows you to get rid of the guilt and enjoy it freely.
Basta listen to your body lang.
And understand your body. Yes.
Understand your body, right. And now, medyo napag-usapan na natin yung nasa likod ng packaging, the detailed nutrition label. But let's talk about the, people usually see first, the front of the pack. Kasi may mga terms din like low-fat, sugar-free, or all-natural na parang automatically sound healthy na agad. So, malaking factor talaga siya on how we decide what to buy. But are these always reliable or are there times na medyo misleading siya?
I think they are reliable in the sense that they are sharing about the food item, but we shouldn't take them at their parang at face value. Diba? Just because something is automatically nakasulat na, oh, low in fat, kunin ko na yan, doesn't necessarily mean it's automatically the best choice for someone kasi iba-iba rin naman yung needs natin. So, for example, dietary fat isn't automatically bad. Diba? Dietary fat still helps us absorb vitamins like vitamin A, D, E, and K. So it's not necessarily bad for something to have fat. Diba? And then for other people, if it says, let's say, oh, this is a low carb, it's not automatically something that you might need because some people, but I need my carbohydrates because I'm a runner or something like that. So these labels can be helpful enough for us to understand about the food item, but it's important to also understand what they mean kasi yun yung pinaka-importante. And we want to make sure that all labels that are added into food items give the consumer information rather than create fear. Diba? Rather than become more restriction and more guilt attached to somebody na pag hindi ko pinili yung low in sugar, masama ako agad. Like, it's not like that. They're just there to inform us. And it's up to us to decide and to recognize how something might fit into our diet, which of course will take time. But that's why these labels are important to understand because it helps you make those decisions. But I hope that we continue to make sure that the labels that we're adding, of course, to food are helpful labels. Kasi kailangan hindi siya magka-create ng more fear, but magka-create ng more understanding.
Pero meron bang instances where front of the packs claims na a bit of misleading or taken out of context? Like, we are low sugar, we are low fat pero mataas yung sugar.
Yeah, exactly. So there are those things that we can't take it out of face value lang na parang, okay, it says this so automatically okay na, diba? Like, it's my choice na. So you still have to read, you still have to understand what it means because usually it will only refer to one nutrient, but not the food as a whole. And that's why we have to understand and how to read the back of the label.
Pero for someone na nagmamadali, like nasa grocery or convenience store, what's a simple way to identify na, this is good naman?
So usually you can use a rule of thumb, which is 5% is low, 20% is high.
Okay.
And you want to keep your dietary fiber, you want to keep your protein and the other vitamins and minerals high, and you want to keep your saturated fat, you want to keep the added sugar, you want to keep those more on the lower side. Now, this doesn't automatically mean that something that doesn't fit that profile is not allowed, but that gives you at least a benchmark of how you can utilize the back of the label to help you choose your food items.
Do you think mas helpful ba if mas standardized or mas regulated pa ang front of the packs?
They're already quite standardized naman. No? There are ordinances already. There are different regulations no, to packaging of food that are pretty standardized. And over time, they were actually changing that. Before, they would only put the parang serving size in front, and now they put serving size and calories in the front of package. So I think it's good to maybe put a few more easy and quick information in the front of package. But I do think that most labels are already quite standardized in terms of how they do it. If we're talking about different labels that like parang new labeling systems, then I think that depends on how we approach it. Because there are ways to label food that can become have a negative impact to the consumer, and there are ways to label food that will have a positive impact to the consumer's understanding. Yun yung medyo titignan natin na paano ba natin siya i-approach.
Meron pa bang other like suggestions for kind of improvements that would help our consumer to make better choices?
Definitely, it's largely on nutrition education. Yun talaga yung pinaka-importante. And even when we are in school, that's the biggest thing that we talk about is how do we educate the public? How do we educate the masses to understand their food choices? Kasi kahit anong label ilalagay mo sa food, if hindi naman maintindihan ng consumer, then they won't be able to truly understand it or be able to utilize it. So it always stems to nutrition education, and that's why it's so great to see more movements and campaigns that help consumers understand their food choices better, how to approach food better, and those are the things that I love to see is more campaigns that focus on nutrition education.
More awareness campaign,
Yes.
right? All right, so Jo, so we've talked about cravings, guilt, snacking, and nutrition labels. Now let's make this really practical for our listeners. For someone listening right now who wants to enjoy their food, feel satisfied, and make mindful choices, what are a few realistic steps that can they actually start doing now?
So similar to what we mentioned a while ago, it really starts with understanding the why and the what of your food choices. I think that is the most important because if you don't know why you're eating something, dun lumalabas yung guilt. Dun lumalabas yung second guessing yourself because you're also going to hear the outside world and the outside noise come in. And then, of course, the other one is to understand your portions and your needs. It's very, very important. For example, and to also emphasize, everyone's needs are different.
Okay.
Diba? Yung tendency kasi is people hear of like a calorie intake, tapos sasabihin nila, oh, that's what I should be eating. Ano, lahat tayo pare-parehas lang dapat
Di siya
yung...
one size fits all.
Exactly. So, if you hear of somebody eating 1,500 calories, that doesn't mean that you should be eating that because everyone is different. So, knowing your portions, knowing what you need is so important. And then, of course, being able to enjoy your food properly with all your senses and using that experience. That's very, very important. For me, I usually recommend to my clients kasi try to have at least one undistracted meal per day. Diba? Whatever time of the day that you can set aside to eat more intentionally, try that. And most of the time, that's in the snacks. Diba? Kasi the snacks will be the one that energizes us in the middle of the day. The snacks are the ones that we can go to whenever we need a little pick-me-up. And most of the time, that's the quicker one that we can do. So that's probably the one that you can set aside time and eat it undistractedly because mas mapapakinggan mo yung cues mo better. That's very important for you to understand. When we say eat with all of your senses, it also gives you more understanding of your body. And then of course to be able to enjoy your food, enjoy your life kasi food, nutrition is supposed to enhance your life, not control it. And the moment it starts controlling you is probably the moment you have to reassess your diet.
Okay, and thinking about everyday challenges of Filipino families face, so what's one key message you'd like moms or anyone buying snacks to keep in mind when it comes to choosing and enjoying food?
I think it would be to focus on balance.
Balance.
Diba? Any snack will work. We just have to focus on balance. And balance means either in terms of the portions or adding nutrients that might be missing or might need to help you feel more satisfied. So that's the one thing that I can really recommend is focus on balance. But if you want to have some crackers, that's perfectly fine. Let's focus on maybe adding a bit of fiber, a bit of protein, just to help balance it out. And that's a way we can have our favorite snacks while still having balanced nutrition.
And also, I saw your one of your videos. There's this instant noodles. Then you put some veggies and protein like egg. So that's the kind of balance that we should.
We can do, yes.
We can do,
I love to do those videos because we also have to be realistic. Diba? And food choices right now are very, very difficult. Not just because of the misinformation, but it's because of food. It's because of access. It's because of affordability na nahihirapan na talaga tayo to make food choices that feel realistic for us, diba? And we hear all of these things na pamahal na lahat ng mga produce and stuff. So for me, it's most important to focus on where you are at now and what you can do with that, diba? If you have a tendency to focus more on convenience foods, that's okay. Let's see what we can add to balance it out as a starting point, and then we can move from there.
Okay. And lastly, what's one mindset shift you wish people could adapt about snacking, something that would completely change how they think about it?
I think one thing that I always say to myself is will always be there tomorrow. Diba? And that helps me snack more mindfully because I'm not rushing. Kasi yun yung tendency natin na hanggang today lang to but parang diet ako bukas, hindi ko na ito pwede kainin, diba? I can always eat this again tomorrow. How much do I really want right now? And then that opens up the portal of mindfulness because you're really listening to yourself, knowing that you always have the choice and the option. What do you want right now? And it's very difficult to get there, of course, especially because it's hard to have that mindset. But if you start it with one snack at a time, then you will be able to see how mindful snacking is not necessarily impossible. It's just a habit or a behavior that we have to build.
Perfect. And yeah, I love how practical all of this is because at the end of the day, it's not about obsessing over calorie or label, you know. It's about enjoying your food, listening to your body or understand your body, and making choices that feel good both physically and mentally. So, Jo, thank you so much for sharing your insights today.
Yes, exactly what you said. So thank you so much.
Right. And I think a lot of people are going to walk away feeling less guilty about food and more empowered to make choices that actually work for them. And to our listeners, remember, food is not the enemy. Your relationship with it doesn't have to be all rules and restrictions. And yeah, enjoy, savor, and listen to your body because balance is not about perfection. It's about making peace with your choices. I am Eiron Francisco, and this has been another Freshly Brewed episode. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
And that wraps up today's episode of Freshly Brewed. Thank you for joining us as we explored how mindful snacking and a better understanding of food labels can guide us toward healthier, more balanced choices. Because in the end, good nutrition is not about restriction. It's about awareness, balance, and making informed decisions every day. For more stories and insights, visit businessmirror.com.ph and follow us on our social media channels. Stay ahead, no more, and see you next time on Freshly Brewed.